a brief history of Third Reich technology. In the dark days of World War II, as storm clouds gathered over Europe, one military force rose to prominence with unprecedented speed and power. The Third Reich's military juggernaut, led by Adolf Hitler and propelled by advanced technology and modern weapons of warfare, made the Wehrmacht seem unstoppable, carving a path of devastation and conquest across the continent. But what was the secret behind that terrifying strength, and how did it manage to change the face of warfare forever? From the menacing Panzer tanks that dominated the battlefield to the devastating V-2 rockets that rained destruction from the skies, the Third Reich's technological prowess played a crucial role in shaping the course of the conflict. These cutting-edge weapons and tactics enabled the Nazi war machine to strike fear into the hearts of its enemies, leaving a trail of ruin in its wake. As the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill once declared, "Give us the tools and we will finish the job." Join us as we delve into the inner workings of the Nazi war machine, uncovering the forces behind its formidable power and the technological innovations that pushed it to the forefront of global conflict. Welcome to the Diary of Julius Caesar. Revolutionizing warfare, the technological edge of the German army in World War II. During World War II, the German military demonstrated a relentless capacity for innovation and technological development in its drive to outpace adversaries. The Wehrmacht designed and fielded some of the most advanced weaponry of the era, and that rush of invention laid the groundwork for many of today's military technologies. The Messerschmitt Me 262, often called the Swallow, stood as a marvel of aeronautical engineering. As the world's first operational jet-powered fighter, developed under the watchful eye of Dr. Willy Messerschmitt, it leapt ahead of contemporary designs. Its first successful test flight on July 18, 1942, with Fritz Wendel at the controls, hinted at a revolution. With revolutionary jet engines and a sleek airframe, the Me 262 could reach speeds over 540 miles per hour, far faster than any Allied aircraft of its day. Yet politics, interference and production delays gnawed at its promise. Not until August 1944 did the first Me 262 reach the Luftwaffe, by which time Allied bombing had already battered German factories and infrastructure. Even so, the Me 262 showcased the German military's drive for technological advantage and became a symbol of its relentless push toward innovation. Another breakthrough was the V-2 rocket, officially the Aggregate 4, a liquid-fueled, long-range ballistic missile that opened a new era in warfare. Capable of striking targets more than 200 miles away, it was designed at the Peenemünde Army Research Center by Wernher von Braun and his team as a vengeance weapon to answer Allied bombing. The V-2's first successful test launch on October 3, 1942, proved the concept. Carrying a 1-ton warhead at supersonic speed, it was nearly impossible to intercept. The first operational use came on September 7, 1944, when a missile was fired at Paris from a mobile platform. Over the remainder of the war, more than 3,000 V-2s targeted Allied cities, causing heavy damage and loss of life. The program, however, bled resources, suffered from poor accuracy, and relied on forced labor in its construction. Despite those grim realities, the V-2 marked a leap forward in rocketry that paved the way for post-war missile systems and space exploration. The Me 262 and V-2 were only part of a broader web of German innovation. Engineers pushed radar forward with the Würzburg and the massive Mammoth sets, crucial for detecting and tracking enemy aircraft. They also advanced infrared technology, producing the Zielgerät 1229 Vampire night vision scope for the Sturmgewehr 44, enabling infantry to engage more effectively in low light. Guided munition work yielded the Fritz X, a precision weapon used to sink the Italian battleship Roma in September 1943, an early, smart bomb that foreshadowed the post-war age of guidance and control. On the ground, the German tank industry produced some of the war's most advanced designs: Tiger, Tiger II, and Panther, machines with thick, often sloped armor and powerful guns that outclassed many Allied counterparts and radiated psychological shock on the battlefield. They also fielded the world's first operational assault gun, the Sturmgeschütz III, which started as close support armor and evolved into a deadly tank destroyer thanks to its low profile and to potent main gun. Beyond hardware, the Germans innovated in tactics and navigation, deploying radio systems like Knickerbane along with X-Gerät and Y-Gerät to guide bombers to targets in poor visibility and at night, ancestors of modern satellite-aided navigation that enabled the Luftwaffe to execute more accurate raids during the Blitz. The Iron Titans, impact of German Panzer tanks in World War II. The Panzer story began in the 1930s as the Weimar Republic, and later Nazi Germany, pursued a new generation of armored vehicles. Heinz Guderian, a visionary officer and primary architect of the German tank arm, championed speed, mobility, and tight communications. He pressed for tanks to be integrated into a combined arms doctrine, laying the foundation for Blitzkrieg. In the early war years, panzers, such as the Panzer II, III, and 44, drove the invasions of Poland, France, and the Soviet Union. These early models were not the heaviest or most powerful, but they were employed with speed, coordination, and precision. The Panzer IV, in particular, became the workhorse of German armored forces and received iterative upgrades throughout the war. Then came the shock of Operation Barbarossa in 1941, when German units met the Soviet T-34. Its sloped armor, mobility, and hard-hitting gun challenged existing Panzer designs and forced a rethink. The German answer arrived in the form of two icons, the Tiger and the Panther. The Tiger I, Panzerkampfwagen 6, Tiger Oswald E, was a heavy tank built to dominate, with thick armor and the fearsome 88mm gun. First committed on the Eastern Front in 1942, the Tiger I gained a fearsome reputation. Michael Wittmann, one of the most celebrated tank commanders, turned the Tiger into legend with audacious battlefield performances. But the Tiger carried burdens, tremendous weight that strained mobility and logistics, and mechanical complexity that was difficult to sustain. The response to those limits was the Tiger D2, King Tiger, boasting even thicker armor and an even more powerful 88mm gun. Entering service late and built in limited numbers, it was among the most heavily armored tanks of the war and projected outsized psychological force whenever it appeared. In parallel, the Panther, Panzerkampfwagen 5, emerged as a direct response to the T-34, blending strengths from both sides, sloped armor, excellent mobility, and a high-velocity 75mm gun. Considered by many the best all-around tank of the conflict, it debuted at Kursk in 1943 and went on to fight across all major fronts, from offensive spearheads to stalwart defensive roles. The Panther also starred in a daring deception during the Battle of the Bulge in 1944, when some were disguised as American M10 tank destroyers to sow confusion, ersatz M10s that sparked a temporary panic and forced Allied units to advance more cautiously. Even so, no armored brilliance could reverse the strategic tide. As Allied forces closed from east and west, Germany struggled to sustain production. Raw materials, fuel, and skilled labor dwindled, and Allied bombing ravaged the industrial base. Tiger and Panther production simply could not match the mass output of Soviet and American factories. The legacy of the Panzer, however, outlasted the regime that built it. German doctrine and design principles reshaped tank warfare after 1945. Guderian's combined arms vision, with armor at the core, became the model for modern armored combat. Lessons drawn from Tiger and Panther influenced post-war tanks worldwide. The emphasis on balancing firepower, protection, and mobility, so clearly expressed by the Panther, became a cornerstone of tank design, echoed in icons like the American M60, the Soviet T-54-55, and the British Centurion. The birth and execution of the Blitzkrieg strategy in WW2. Blitzkrieg, lightning war, redefined the early war image of the Wehrmacht. Shaped by innovative minds like Heinz Guderian and Erich von Manstein, it prioritized speed, surprise, and concentrated mechanized force to deliver rapid, shattering blows. The concept took root in the interwar years as German officers studied World War I's stagnant trench warfare and sought a way around it. Drawing on British thinkers B.H. Liddell-Hart and J.F.C. Fuller, Guderian and his peers envisioned mobile operations that fused tanks, infantry, artillery, and air power into a single, fluid instrument. Break through, roll deep, encircle, and collapse the enemy from within. The first full test came with the invasion of Poland in September 1939. Panzer divisions backed by waves of Stuka dive bombers crushed Polish defenses in just over a month. Newsreels of armor surging across the countryside and Stukas screaming overhead signaled a new era of warfare. The next year, the Germans took it further in the invasion of France and the Low Countries. Manstein proposed what became known as the Siechelschnitt, his bold plan to drive the main effort through the Ardennes, terrain the French High Command deemed impassable for a large armored force. Guderian's panzers raced through the forests, crossed the Meuse, and stunned Allied planners. By the time the scale of the danger became clear, German spearheads had ruptured the front and were darting toward the Channel. Allied attempts to blunt the blow, like the British-led counterattack at Arras on May 21, 1940, inflicted real damage but could not reverse the momentum. Encircled and pressed to the sea, the British Expeditionary Force and French units withdrew to Dunkirk, setting the stage for Operation Dynamo, the dramatic evacuation of more than 330 war soldiers. Blitzkrieg's success in Poland and France astonished the world and burnished the image of an unstoppable German war machine. Yet limitations emerged as the war ground on. In the vast expanses of the Soviet Union, logistics, weather, and distance strained the Wehrmacht's mobility and supply. As the Allies adapted to German methods and rolled out countermeasures, reproducing the early, stunning victories grew harder. The lightning that once split fronts wide open now flickered against enemies who had learned its rhythm, and the swift strikes that once shocked Europe could no longer guarantee decisive success. The Waffen-SS and their role in the German war effort. Born from the shadows of the Nazi regime, the Waffen-SS stands as one of the most controversial and storied military organizations of the Second World War. Originally established as the armed wing of the Schutzstaffel, the Waffen-SS would evolve into a formidable fighting force, renowned for fierce combat prowess and unwavering loyalty to Adolf Hitler. Yet, the dark legacy of the Waffen-SS, tainted by war crimes and its role in the Holocaust, casts a somber shadow over its battlefield accomplishments. Its genesis traces to the early 1930s when Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, sought to create a reliable and loyal force to protect the Nazi regime. Initially composed of a small number of hand-picked men, the Waffen-SS expanded rapidly after war broke out. By the conflict's end, it counted more than 900,000 members, a diverse array of nationalities and ethnicities drawn from across occupied Europe. The Waffen-SS distinguished itself through rigorous training, high morale, and dedication to the Nazi cause. Notable divisions included Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, Das Reich, Totenkopf, and the infamous 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend. These elite formations fought in some of the war's most brutal and desperate battles, from the frozen steppes of the Eastern Front to the Bocage of Normandy. One striking example of Waffen-SS battlefield prowess was the ferocious fight for Kharkov in early 1943. After heavy setbacks in the Soviet Union left the German military in retreat, the SS Panzer Corps, led by the charismatic and ruthless Paul Hauser, mounted a daring counter-offensive, recapturing the strategic city from the advancing Red Army. The victory, though fleeting, bolstered German morale and cemented the Waffen-SS's reputation as tenacious, skilled fighters. Another telling episode came during the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. In a last bid to reverse the war's tide, Hitler launched a massive offensive through the Ardennes, aiming to split Allied lines and seize the vital port of Antwerp. Spearheading the attack were several elite Waffen-SS divisions, including the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler and the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend. Driven by fanatical devotion to their Führer, these units fought with exceptional grit and skill, inflicting heavy casualties on surprised American forces. Yet the Waffen-SS's reputation for battlefield prowess cannot be separated from the atrocities committed by its members. In June 1944, the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend, under Kurt Meyer, perpetrated one of the Western Front's most notorious war crimes, the massacre of Canadian prisoners of war at the Abbey of Ardennes in Normandy. This horrific act, alongside other incidents of brutality and war crimes, would forever stain the organization's legacy. As the Third Reich crumbled, the Waffen-SS was called upon to defend the collapsing regime from advancing Allied forces. In the Battle of Berlin, the last desperate stand of the German military, remnants of the once proud formations fought to the bitter end, displaying a grim, fanatical devotion even in the face of certain defeat. That same intensity, which had defined the Waffen-SS throughout the war, proved both strength and undoing. When the dust settled on the ruins of the Reich, surviving members faced a reckoning for their actions. Many high-ranking officers, including Hauser, stood trial and were convicted for war crimes and crimes against humanity. In the years that followed, the full extent of the Waffen-SS's involvement in the Holocaust and other atrocities came to light, casting a dark pall over its battlefield achievements. The U-boat campaign and the Battle for the Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic, waged between the German Kriegsmarine and the Allied navies, was a crucial, bitterly contested struggle that helped decide the fate of the free world. At its heart were U-boats, menacing underwater predators that stalked Atlantic shipping lanes to sever the lifelines sustaining the beleaguered British Isles. The tale of the U-boat campaign is one of courage, sacrifice, and technological gambits, as both sides scrambled for advantage in a titanic duel beneath the waves. Backbone of the German fleet was the Type 7, a versatile, robust submarine that proved a deadly menace to Allied shipping throughout the war. Armed with a potent load of torpedoes and a powerful deck gun, the Type 7 could shadow and sink even heavily defended convoys. At the helms of these undersea hunters were men like Otto Kretschmer and Günther Prien, U-boat aces whose daring and lethal efficiency earned the admiration of comrades and the dread of enemies. The campaign reached its zenith during the Happy Time, from July 1940 to October 1941, when Wolfpack tactics inflicted heavy losses on Allied convoys, sinking millions of tons of vital war material and pushing Britain toward the brink of starvation. The words of Admiral Karl Dönitz, mastermind of the U-boat arm, echoed ominously in British minds. The only thing that will bring England to her knees is the cutting of her seaways. But the tide turned as the Allies fielded new technologies and tactics to counter the threat. Radar, high-frequency direction finding, HFDF, and long-range aircraft equipped with surface search radar and depth charges shifted the balance. As losses mounted, U-boat crews faced ever steeper odds. 3 out of 4 submariners would never return from their perilous missions. In a bid to regain the initiative, Germany introduced the revolutionary electroboot, most notably the Type 21, a technological leap that featured advanced hydrodynamics, an efficient snorkel, and greatly increased submerged speed. With the ability to remain underwater for extended periods and evade detection, the electroboot represented a quantum jump in submarine design and posed a serious potential threat to Allied control of the seas. Yet it arrived too late to change the war's course. Production delays, Allied bombing, and a shortage of experienced crews meant limited action and minimal impact on the campaign's outcome. As the Third Reich collapsed under relentless Allied pressure, The surviving U-boats were scuttled or surrendered, marking the end of a once feared fleet. Soaring eagles, the Luftwaffe's tactical innovations and aerial supremacy. As the clouds of war gathered over Europe in the late 1930s, the newly formed Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, emerged as a potent instrument of Nazi aggression. Under the watchful eye of Hermann Göring, it adopted a series of innovative tactics and cutting-edge aircraft that would transform aerial warfare and leave a lasting mark on aviation history. The story of the Luftwaffe's tactics is one of daring innovation, bitter struggle, and the indomitable spirit of the men who piloted the Third Reich's warplanes. The Stuka dive bomber, officially the Junkers Ju-87, became the embodiment of this approach. Engineered for pinpoint accuracy, its signature method was a steep, near-vertical dive that let pilots release their payloads with devastating precision. It was flown by men like Hans-Ulrich Rudel, the most decorated Luftwaffe pilot of the war, whose relentless attacks on Soviet tanks earned him the moniker the Eagle of the Eastern Front. The Stuka's effectiveness was amplified by its chilling psychological effect. Equipped with sirens dubbed Jericho trumpets, the bomber's piercing wail shattered enemy morale and spread panic across the battlefield. That blend of terror and accuracy made the Stuka a vital component of blitzkrieg, as seen in the invasions of Poland, France, and the Soviet Union. Complementing the Stuka's ground attack role was the Luftwaffe's formidable fighter force, notably the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf Fw 190. Agile and heavily armed, these fighters secured air superiority for German ground forces, dogfighting enemy fighters and intercepting bombers. Aces such as the legendary Erich Hartmann, credited with a staggering 352 aerial victories, and the charismatic Adolf Galland, who led the fighter arm, fueled the aura of Luftwaffe invincibility. Innovation extended beyond airframes to command and control. A flexible, decentralized system granted pilots unusual autonomy in the heat of combat, letting them adapt quickly to shifting conditions and seize the initiative. That agile command culture, combined with superior aircraft performance, gave the Luftwaffe a marked edge in the early war years. Yet, as the tide turned, the force found itself overmatched by the Allies' sheer industrial might and fast advancing technology. Even with the introduction of advanced aircraft like the Messerschmitt Me-262 jet fighter, the Luftwaffe could not halt the Allied air campaign that laid waste to German cities and crippled the Reich's war machine. The unsung heroes of German logistics and the Opel Blitz. The gears of war, the unsung heroes of German logistics and the Opel Blitz, kept the machinery of battle turning. Behind every victorious army stands an intricate network of supply lines, and the German army of World War II was no exception. Efficient logistics and innovative vehicles played a critical role in sustaining its fighting capacity. The tale of German logistics is one of ingenuity, adaptability, and the tireless work of those who kept the wheels moving under overwhelming pressure. Its roots reach back to the interwar period, when planners and engineers such as Erich von Manstein and Heinz Guderian devised strategies for rapidly mobilizing and deploying forces. That emphasis on speed and mobility shaped the design of transport vehicles tailored to modern mechanized warfare. Chief among them was the Opel Blitz, a light truck that formed the backbone of Wehrmacht logistical operations. Capable of hauling everything from ammunition and fuel to troops and general supplies, the Blitz proved its worth in countless roles and earned the nickname Workhorse of the Wehrmacht. Its rugged construction and strong engine let it traverse punishing terrain, making it indispensable on the Eastern Front's mud and snow and in North Africa's deserts. With supply lines stretching across thousands of miles, the Blitz's role in maintaining combat power cannot be overstated. It ensured frontline units received what they needed to keep fighting. Versatility made it even more valuable. The Opel Blitz was readily adapted into mobile workshops, field kitchens, and radio communication vehicles, multiplying its utility on the battlefield. German logisticians also augmented capacity by pressing captured enemy vehicles into service, a pragmatic approach that helped them meet shifting demands and exploit every available resource. As the war dragged on, however, the network began to fray. Relentless attrition on the Eastern Front, compounded by Allied bombing, hammered supply routes and depots. Shortages of fuel and spare parts became crippling, making it increasingly difficult to keep tanks and aircraft operational against mounting odds. In the end, even German ingenuity could not overcome the sheer scale of the challenge. The Soviet Red Army's inexorable advance and the Allies pounding from the air brought the once mighty Wehrmacht to its knees. Its supply lines stretched to the breaking point, its fighting capacity depleted. Cryptic battles and the secrets of the Enigma machine. In the shadowy world of espionage and intelligence, secure communication can mean the difference between victory and defeat. During World War II, the German military staked its secrets on a remarkable device, the Enigma machine. This ingenious encoder, with its intricate rotors and plugboard, became the center of a clandestine duel between Axis and Allies, a war of wits that helped shape history. First developed in the 1920s, Enigma was a marvel of engineering and cryptography. At its core sat a series of interchangeable rotors that transformed plain letters into ciphers, rendering messages unreadable to anyone without the correct keys. A plugboard amplified that protection by swapping letter pairs before and after the rotor path, multiplying the possibilities. The result was a dizzying number of potential settings, seemingly countless permutations that could be used to secure traffic. The German High Command embraced Enigma as its standard cipher machine, placing immense faith in its complexity and assuming it to be virtually unbreakable. Confident in the device, they broadcast vital orders, troop movements, and battle plans over the air, certain their enemies could not peer inside. Yet the Enigma had already drawn Allied attention. In the years before the war, a team of Polish cryptanalysts led by the brilliant Marian Rejewski made crucial breakthroughs in understanding the system. The Poles shared their findings with the British, who assembled a cadre of exceptional minds, including the now legendary Alan Turing, at the top-secret government code and cipher school at Bletchley Park. There, ingenuity, mathematical skill, and new electromechanical tools such as Turing's bomber enabled the codebreakers to pierce Enigma's armor. Their success, known as Ultra, let Allied operators intercept and read German communications, feeding a stream of intelligence that reshaped operations and blunted enemy blows. The consequences were profound. Forewarned of enemy intentions, the Allies anticipated and disrupted plans, saved lives, and tilted crucial battles. Some historians argue that the work at Bletchley Park shortened the war by years, sparing millions in the process. The leaders and the iron discipline of the German army, masters of the battlefield, leadership and iron discipline underpinned the German army's wartime reputation. The Wehrmacht was known not only for technology and tactics, but for exceptional commanders and rigorous training that gave its formations a cutting edge. Names like Erwin Rommel and Heinz Guderian became synonymous with early victories, etched into history as master tacticians and military visionaries. Their leadership, combined with the relentless preparation of the rank and file, forged a force that tested Allied mettle and left an indelible mark on the conduct of war. Rommel, the famed Desert Fox, embodied battlefield genius and personal charisma. A veteran of World War I, he rose quickly through the ranks, inspiring his men with daring maneuvers and crisp execution. As commander of the Africa Corps, he achieved his greatest triumphs, outmaneuvering British forces across North Africa and earning a reputation as one of the era's most brilliant tacticians. Guderian, another towering figure, pioneered modern mechanized warfare and served as chief architect of the blitzkrieg that would transform strategy. His insights into armored operations, distilled in his influential Achtung, Panzer, provided a blueprint for stunning campaigns in Poland, France, and the Soviet Union. His grasp of mobility, combined arms, and operational tempo earned him the moniker the father of the Panzerwaffe, a fitting title for a thinker whose ideas helped rewrite the rules of conflict. The army's success also rested on iron discipline and punishing training. The Wehrmacht built its ethos on strict standards and relentless conditioning, shaping soldiers into a formidable fighting force. The common lancer earned a reputation for tenacity, resilience, and loyalty to comrades, qualities that served them in the crucible of combat. War games and tactical exercises reinforced fieldcraft and translated doctrine into instinct, while a culture of study encouraged officers and enlisted men to learn from past campaigns and apply lessons to modern battlefields. That habit of continual improvement proved invaluable as the war evolved, helping formations adapt to new threats and tools. The story of German leadership and training is thus central to understanding its wartime performance. Bold strategists with a deep feel for the art of war, paired with soldiers molded by discipline and practice, their triumphs and tragedies forever tied to the name Wehrmacht, the fallen titan, limitations, defeat, and the lessons of the German army. In the annals of military history, the Wehrmacht stands as both a symbol of operational brilliance and a warning about strategic overreach. For all its strengths, it was ultimately undone by miscalculation, overstretch, and the indomitable resolve of the Allied nations. By probing the limits and causes of defeat, we gain insight into warfare's unforgiving logic and the lessons its campaigns left behind. Chief among the errors was the decision to invade the Soviet Union. Operation Barbarossa, launched on June 22, 1941, opened a brutal campaign that drove the army to its breaking point. Vast distances, punishing climate, and the Red Army's dogged resistance exacted a heavy price, siphoning strength and drawing resources away from other theaters. The Wehrmacht's rapid conquests brought their own penalty. Overextended supply lines struggled to keep pace with the front, especially on the Eastern Front, where drives toward Moscow and Stalingrad faltered for want of fuel, ammunition, and spares. As the tide turned, logistics grew even more precarious under Allied bombing, which hammered Germany's industrial heartland and crippled its capacity to wage war. Another decisive factor was the resilience and determination of the Allies. The United States, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and others proved formidable in their ability to mobilize industry, economies, and manpower. Their combined might and unwavering commitment to victory overwhelmed the German war machine and paved the way for Europe's liberation. The Wehrmacht's defeat underscores enduring lessons: the peril of hubris, the need for realistic assessments, and the risks of overextension, the importance of strong alliances and robust, adaptable logistics, and the central role of morale and resolve. Despite early successes and capable leadership, German formations ultimately succumbed to the sustained pressure of Allied arms. The dogged determination of Soviet, American, British, and other Allied soldiers, and their unyielding commitment to freedom, stands as a testament to human will in the face of tyranny. In the end, the German army's story is one of triumphs and tragedies intertwined. Its advances in technology, tactics, and leadership were formidable, but strategic errors and the Allies' determination sealed its fate. The tale is a reminder of human ingenuity, the dangers of overconfidence, and the hard-won insights history offers. As we reflect on this journey through World War II, let us remember the words of Winston Churchill: "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." May we continue to draw lessons from the past and strive for a more peaceful, just future for all.